Hello. I've got my new background.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't.
I'm still processing. That was so cool. And I'm really glad we're a little bit out of sync on the timings. It's all good. But I'm glad I caught the end of Lyra's talk as well, because I really wanted to see that. But I was in the other track. So all is well. Right, we've got a panel coming up now. Are all the panelists folks on? Please make yourselves known.
Hello. Hello.
Hey, Phil.
How are you doing, Sam?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Very good, thanks.
Excellent.
Am I the only one on?
No.
I'm kitted up suitably.
Pete's on, yep.
Hi, Pete.
You all right?
Should have me as well, Phil. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Martin.
Everybody's on. All right. Should we do a little kind of introductions to everybody? And then, Phil, you're going to be leading this, right?
Yeah, indeed. And I've built in some introductions within my questions. That's all just go straight in.
All right, then over to you, mate.
Yeah, that's cool. So my name's Phil Jackman. I lead on Cyber North, the region's cybersecurity cluster, developed by Dynamo Northeast, these people behind me, and supported by Accenture and Innovation Super Network. There's 10 Cyberfest events on throughout September, so please look out for the others in the series. So now we're going to go through this panel session with the title of, so we're all working from home. Did anyone think about security? So I'm going to start with Pete, if that's okay. This is the first time that we've met, I think. And so you can tell us a bit about yourself and your work at Pulsant.
Yeah, so certainly. So I am employed within Pulsant, who hopefully everybody in the Northeast will know of. We're a major UK data center hosting hybrid cloud company, do technical solutions. I primarily work now, I'm an ex-engineer. My background is in sort of client server systems, networking, Cisco security, VMware, ESX, virtualization, that sort of thing. But now I work in a small team of technical architects, and when business opportunities come in, I work with the sales department to make sure that our solutions are tailored to whatever the client is requesting, be that colo, cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, or on premises. We pretty much will tailor whatever we do to the client's requirements. And I've been doing that for about 9 months. Before that, I used to get my hands dirty, but now not so much.
So if ever there was an opportunity, COVID must be it. And so tell us, how's that affected the way that the company's been working?
Very much so. I mean, I'm really pleased with the way that Pulsant sort of reacted to the whole COVID thing. My team, because I've changed roles and been promoted whilst all this has been going on. So when this initially started, in February, my entire team was sent home and told to work from home until further notice. This was pretty much before anybody else reacted, so we were a little confused at the time, because at that time everybody else wasn't getting sent home. I think it was more that they didn't want the engineering firm or the engineering element of the business to all go off sick at the same time, possibly. But obviously, as most of you will appreciate, we are a sort of data center centric company. So the actual user requests that were coming in for remote access to either their own equipment or their on premises equipment went up dramatically. And obviously, with an element of remote working, we've had a massive uptake on things like shared desktop and VDI environments to deliver sort of core business applications back to those businesses, and that's ramped up dramatically.
Excellent. Sam, I'm going to come to you now, if that's okay. But before I start, just what a fantastic event. You must be really proud of you and Ben, and put a huge amount of work with the rest of the team into that. So you and I go way back, I think at least a few months. What's happened to you and Exabeam once COVID struck?
Well, you know, it's been an interesting ride. I mean, we're all still working from home. There's a few people started to move around if they're in countries where you're allowed to do so. But yeah, we moved to working from home pretty quickly. We also had it was well publicized on Twitter. I dodged going to RSA this year. And one of our employees actually got sick at RSA and was very ill with COVID. So, and we decided as a company we were going to tell people that's what happened because he was working the booth. So we got various reactions on Twitter around that. I mean, fortunately, he's fine. He was in a coma for like 16 days.
Yeah, mate.
Really poorly. And the company were incredible on all counts. Really, they did a lot to communicate both what was happening with him, but what we were doing to keep the employees safe, to keep the workforce running. So it was a big effort, but they mobilised super quick to get everybody up and running at home. Obviously, we all live in Zoom right now. It feels like we're working very long days. Very long days. I work from home anyway, so the only thing that was really noticeable to me was all of a sudden my husband's at home more, and then there was this small child running around. So we've all had kids and animals on calls a lot of late. It's become like a window into people's lives, really. But I think Exaboom's been awesome, both from an internal employee point of view, but also just kind of pivoting what we do for our customers and how do we help them through this, as it's been such an upheaval.
Zoom call wouldn't be the same without a child or a small animal running in the background. So that's an interesting point that you've made, because we're talking about COVID from a cybersecurity kind of perspective or a technical perspective, but there's a physical security aspect as well. So do you think that has this changed the way that Exaboom thinks about security?
From a cybersecurity point of view? From either.
Both, yeah.
I think we've where we've definitely changed is there was more of a feeling that you had to be part of the office in a lot of places. If you work at HQ, you had to be seen in the office and doing stuff in the office. So therefore, you had to be living near it. So I don't think I'm not answering your question properly, I know, but I think what it has changed a lot, and I think this is for a lot of organisations, is now changing. Like, you can employ people from all over the place now. I think it's going to do a lot for actually diversity and inclusion, because people don't have to physically go and sit in an office, and it's been shown that people can work from home. I know we're going to talk about it a bit later on, but there's a whole question now about securing the home versus securing the office. So that, I think, has been a big shift for everybody. But I won't steal our thunder for later.
Excellent. I'm going to come back to you, Pete. If you don't mind, it just really managed service territory. COVID, it really plays into this space beautifully, I would have thought. Was there some sort of panic at the start of the lockdown?
Well, only insofar as capacity. I mean, most people, most businesses only really budget for quite a small amount of their staff to be remote working at any time. Obviously, my background is in sort of Cisco perimeter security, so we're talking AnyConnect and those sort of remote access VPN solutions. Typically, a business will only deploy between 5 and 10% of their actual bums on seats manpower into licensing for remote access VPN. As you can appreciate, when there was a massive move from office to home networking, there was a massive shortfall in the amount of licensing. So for a few weeks, I was literally jumping from firewall to firewall, increasing licensing for these people. And early March, probably the first 2 or 3 weeks, that was solidly what me and my colleagues were doing, just ramping up stuff that businesses already had. Not so much in the tail end in the last couple of months. There we've seen more a move from shared desktop type networking that hasn't particularly fared very well. If you've got 40 or 50 users on a shared desktop environment all trying to do Microsoft Teams meetings, which we're all doing at the minute, then it's not very good at all, hence the reason why we're moving heavily into reinvesting in our VDI platforms and shared desktops. And
were the vendors okay with the licensing demands? Were they very strict in terms of you've got it or you haven't?
Yeah, I mean, like I keep mentioning Cisco because that's my background, but we're not solely a Cisco house. We've got a lot of Junos and Fortinet. But
those are available, yes.
Yeah, other vendors are available. Cisco moved very quickly to give people free licensing. The model that they have for licensing is they have the ability now on the newer platforms to restrict licenses they give you to a certain time period because they want everybody to go onto a rental model so they get recurring revenue. But the upside of that is that they were very quickly and for zero charge to the customer be able to relicense all their hardware products to their maximum per hardware, per firewall or per router. up to their maximum capacity for free for all those users, which was
Excellent.
a bonus for us because we could get the free licenses very quickly. And then those businesses that wanted to actually buy the licenses for longer than 90 days, they had plenty of time to sort of catch up.
Okay, good. And are you seeing any movement to go back into the office yet?
Strange you should say that, but I was checking my email just before this to see if there was anything coming out of this, and I got an email from my CEO to say that our Newcastle office, which is Access House in T Valley, they're opening that up on Monday the 7th, which is this Monday coming, I believe. But that's more because people have been asking for offices to open rather than they want to drive people back into the office. I think that's the last thing they want. I think, as Sam said earlier, most businesses now are realizing that they really don't need massive glass buildings and meeting rooms with multicolored beanbags in them, and that thing. Hopefully, if there's one good thing to come out of this situation, is that businesses will trust their employees a little bit more, and home working will become a little bit more of the norm.
Great. Well, I'm hoping to go back to some sort of mixed economy where you go to work if you want to, you stay at home if you need to. But I think we've seen that life imitating art, clearly.
I'm somewhat biased because it's a 100-mile round trip for me to get to the office. So if I can work from home, I always will.
Okay, excellent. Martin, I know you've been waiting there very patiently, but we've been working quite closely on the NEBRC. Tell us a bit about yourself and this exciting initiative.
Yeah, afternoon, everybody. For those who don't know me, I'm a police officer. I've worked with Phil a number of years on different things in cyber. The last 4 or 5 years of my career have been in the sort of cyber sphere, but mainly from protecting the individuals and businesses rather than the investigation of it. I was going to say being dragged, that wouldn't be the right word.
Kicking and screaming.
Let's just say an opportunity has presented itself, is probably a better way of phrasing it. And I'm working now, I'm seconded into something called the Northeast Business Resilience Centre, which is really exciting. It's unlike anything really that policing's been involved in. And what it is, it's kind of that perfect blend, which we're trying to get right, of private sector businesses, policing and academia coming together to try and help SMEs, the smaller businesses in our area, to increase their cyber resilience. But it's not just a talking shop. We're actually doing stuff, which is great. So where I think the model will be really successful is we're using our local talent, our university undergraduates that are studying this stuff at university to offer them out to businesses to do vulnerability assessments, web app assessments, open source footprinting, lots of sort of the low level stuff you can do, but can make a great difference, for the foundations of your cybersecurity. And the idea is that the centre will charge for that, but hopefully that cost will be reduced, the students will be paid, and any profits that are made are then reinvested back into the public good. We are one of the first sort of centres in England. We're an early adopter, but you can have 10 of these centres dotted around the country, and Phil's been instrumental in helping me sort of drive it and create it forward. So thank you, Phil.
It's a pleasure. Always a pleasure to work with the police on the right side of the desk, as wherever you can. And so, how's the centre going to be working with this? I mean, there's nearly 70 cybersecurity companies in the region. How's the centre planning to work with these companies in the commercial environment?
Yeah, at first I was quite nervous about that, in all honesty. Nervous because you've essentially got different companies there that, when you look at it, are competitors, or certainly they're going to be offering services that the centre itself will offer. And how is all this going to be perceived, and how is all this going to work? But what I have seen I've been blown away. We've had companies that are in the same sectors and stuff sat across the table from each other have actually now joined the centre to become kind of like our technical arm, our that offer professional advice. We get what's called trusted partners. So they're predominantly companies that will certify things like cyber essentials. And the idea is that obviously the work that we're doing with the students is the basics. Doesn't mean it's not good. It means it's the stuff that we should be doing, because experience has taught me, and I've seen it firsthand, that when the basics are not done, that's when businesses do get hit. But there is a limit to what the students can quite rightly do. And the hope is that maybe businesses that for whatever reason, have not seen the need to do something with cybersecurity, whether that be a trust, ignorance, or cost thing, can come into the centre, do some stuff with the students, but then evolve into the bigger services, maybe understand why they need some of the things that Pete's been talking about and all that sort of stuff, so that they go on and move and grow. So I guess the businesses that are with us, they're hopefully with us for the right reason, but there will be a commercial gain for them potentially further down the road.
I hear that 60% of businesses were hit last year by some sort of threat and, some sort of actual activity, I suppose. The other 40% don't know yet. But from the police's perspective, has COVID made a difference to the online threat?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, in the real analog world, if you like, it's made a difference in that there's been less stuff going on, close the pubs, there's less people drinking too much and hitting each other on a Friday and Saturday night. But there's been an increase undoubtedly on an online shopping, COVID masks, hand sanitizer, all that sort of stuff sort of happens. But what happens is the bad guys just weave whatever their scams are, they just weave it into the news story of the day. So from a phishing point of view, seen a lot of phishing that's been COVID based. But what we also have seen as well, without going into all the details, is companies that maybe have been caught on the hop, whereby they've suddenly haven't done much remote working, and then they're going to do a load of remote working. They've maybe turned on RDP for the first time, and it's an out-of-date version, it's an out-of-date protocol that they're using. And then what happens is the bot finds them and delivers the ransomware. Unfortunately, a bit of that's been going on. So I guess the bad guys will suss out what it is we're using and look to increasingly target that, which doesn't come as any surprise to me. So I guess summary, we've still got the real world issues going on in the physical world, albeit in lockdown those things tailed off. But we have seen a shift to more stuff happening online.
Thanks, Martin. As if the online world isn't the real world, but there you go. I'll let you off for that. But okay, moving on to Sam then, and back to you, Sam. I'm going to ask you, knowing what you know now that we're 4 or 5 months into this issue, do you think you would have done anything different as a company back in March and April?
I think it seems really lame to say no. I think we're lucky because we're cloud first, so it wasn't so much of a pain. Pretty much everything's some sort of SaaS based thing. If anything, we're super keen on like getting the latest tech and the latest thing, and it's like, hey, it's the new thing for HR this week or whatever it might be. So that wasn't so much of a problem. I think where I've seen people suffer, and back to what Martin was saying, is when they've had to pivot really quickly, either because they're having to turn on new things or they're very quickly moving to the cloud. And they're going to have to make decisions at the speed of business rather than the speed of security, especially if you don't have those skills in-house. So I think, for us, it wasn't so much of a challenge, but I think we're probably one of the lucky few in that case.
So do you think there are lessons in you said you don't have the technical skills in-house. Are there lessons to be learned? You need to have those technical skills or be able to get hold of them. You need to think about better business continuity planning, and because something like this is going to happen again. I think,
there's so many things that can happen. I mean, you can apply some level of other BCP to this, but I think it was just the scale of it was the thing, is that like all of a sudden like everyone's going home, rather than just one office or something. It was it was pretty much global, right? So this thing happened. So I think the bigger concern now is if people need to go back and look at the security of what they've done. I think it's okay to make business decisions over security when you need to, but as long as you go back and do that retrospective quickly, because I think what we're going to see soon, if not already, is there's going to be a whole bunch of breaches popping up because people have left doors open. Potentially doors they haven't known how to close has been the challenge. So I see a lot of folks in the community that are able to come and help with that stuff. You need to get consultants in or whatever. If you don't have the skills in-house, like totally do that, because I think there's a lot of gaps right now because of the speed we've had to pivot for COVID. Yeah, my concern though is that we've got several other big things coming up over the horizon, which may put us in exactly the same boat. Without getting into politics, yes, I agree. Good. And Pete, same sort of question for you. Is there anything different that you would have done
from your business earlier on?
Sorry, I was on mute there.
Oh, no.
I'm conscious that the dog's going to start barking any minute. So the biggest sort of pain point for us, I think, was we just really didn't anticipate the massive upsurge in capacity and bandwidth and requirement that we were going to be required to present. I think I mentioned earlier we were completely unprepared for the amount of video and voice data that was going to be going in and out of our client's network, and ultimately in and out of our network, because it's got all that traffic still has to go across our core network to be presented out of our data centers. We did meet that challenge. However, it was a challenge that we really didn't expect. I can't really say that we'd have done anything differently, because there was no way that anybody could really project that uptake. I think we've coped reasonably well, to be honest. I think we've forged some really good relationships with our customers now, because they've seen that we've reacted very quickly to this. So from us, I think we're in a better place now, and we've certainly got a higher level of trust with our customers now because of the way that we reacted to that. But in answer to the question that you asked, I can't really see that we could have done anything differently. It's nice to be able to comment on this with a benefit of hindsight, but such a global event is something that nobody really could have predicted.
No, 2020 hindsight's a fantastic thing. Quite often when the proverbial shit hits the fan, things like documentation, training, that sort of certification go out of the window, and we just focus on. Were you able to keep a handle on that kind of aspect of the business?
Yeah, one of the things we are particularly weak at is we've got, because we're a company that is like most large companies, has developed by buying other companies. So for those of you in the Northeast will probably remember Knowledge IT and Onyx and people like that. They've all been absorbed into Pulsant, and it takes quite a few years after that happens to be properly sucked into the larger company and have everything done properly. That's one of the weakest parts and the biggest challenges that face us. You'll often find if a customer has a problem, they'll say, oh, they're a legacy knowledge customer and you need to go there to get information for that. So that is something that affects us probably more than most businesses. We tend to have sort of islands of information and documentation that they're not as joined up as they should be. We are slowly working through that and curing that, and we are onboarding customers into systems that stretch across all our data centers now. So that's something that is a business challenge to us all the time. Certainly not in light of recent events.
Okay, that's great. Well, thanks very much for that, Pete. And come back to you, Martin. Now, is the police doing anything differently since COVID?
Well, there are two aspects to that question. There's, have we had to do anything differently, as in police and PLC? And obviously this is in the sort of construct of 43 different police forces, so maybe I can only really give it through the lens of the ones that I know. Like any other business, we've had to do things differently, up our remote working solutions for those that are in non-sort of frontline operational roles. If you think of control rooms, they're 24/7. Well, they're hot desking, are they not? And in the background of COVID, there's all these things to risk assess and to consider. But ultimately, you still need police officers to be frontline. So they've still got to go frontline with the risk assessment of face masks and having to protect themselves. But the real sort of encouragement's been for those that don't need to, that they will remote work. And I think reflecting upon it, listening to other people's sort of musings on it, it's worked quite well in the main, and it's maybe opened that door more. There can be misconceptions with remote working, but for the right reasons, it's really effective. So I echo the people's views on that. I guess I wouldn't say we've been caught on the hop, but a lot of the demand from the public in relation to cybersecurity advice has increased, because all of a sudden everybody's using Zoom And then there was that furore around Zoom being unencrypted and all the issues around that. Was it safe? All of the Zoom bombings. So I found that, you know, there was a lot of demand. There was a lot of interest from media suddenly placed upon us around the protecting the home user, like these networks, our routers, are they safe? What sort of things should we be looking out for? But what was interesting for me reflecting upon it is the advice that I would give isn't any different to the advice before COVID, which maybe for whatever reason the messages are not getting through. You know, the good basic cyber hygiene, the good advice around strong unique passwords, backing up information, making sure you use anti-malware solution, you know, the basic stuff is the stuff that I would still advocate now. So those are just some of my thoughts, Phil.
No, absolutely. I think COVID has generally raised people's concerns about security, particularly around the top. Being naive, though, do people try and hack into police systems?
Yeah, of course they will. I mean, I can't, you know, you put something on the internet and it's vulnerable, and we're no different in that regard. I mean, what I will say is there is a lot of safeguards put into place. Nothing's unhackable. And I don't have any statistics to give you to say what the prevalence of it is. But as an example, through the work I do in the NEBRC, we're on a completely different computer system, which is much more user-friendly. But you go back to the police system and it's that old paradigm of usability and security. It is quite rightly, you know, bolted right down. So I guess the concern would be is if you were to put people that maybe have sensitive roles in a home environment, would that information be at risk? Well, those safeguards, in all honesty, were already there. So you can't print, you know, there's lots of things that you can't do. And I'm sure if there would be people here that could circumvent it, but that comes down to a trust issue, does it not? And making sure that you trust people and you try and minimise the risk.
So do today what we should have been doing before COVID anyway, really, I suppose is your message.
Absolutely, 100%, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent, thanks, Martin. Sam, we're getting close to the end of time, but the end of time, not in general, but there we go. So we've spoken a little bit about the customer. How did your customers adapt to the changes in working, and was security really a concern for them?
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying earlier, the whole kind of the business needs pivoting there, but yeah, I mean, if you all of a sudden you've been working in an environment that's largely, you know, within the traditional network as much as possible anyway, and then all of a sudden everybody's outside of that, getting visibility is tough on a good day. Getting visibility into a bunch of machines that may not even be coming in through the VPN, because a bunch of folks had challenges just with the VPN capacity, couldn't handle all of those remote workers coming in. So they've had to kind of bypass that. And that again, does that create a new issue? So trying to get that visibility has been tough. So we've been helping people around that. And I think the other thing actually goes back to what Martin was just saying around home security. I know cyber insurance is a fascinating topic, and I'm about to get invited to all the dinner parties. But the cyber insurance companies moved really quickly to bring out the new clauses saying, we expect you to have the same level of security for your home workers as they've got in the office. Which I think it does really beg an interesting question of kind of where does that start and finish? Because you can give somebody a laptop and you can have that reasonably locked down and you can say, yeah, use the VPN. But you've still got routers, IoT devices. You're dropping it into a home network. And maybe that device isn't as secure as it could be. And then we've also got, pick your home assistant of choice sitting there being the wiretap in the corner. I was watching a great talk at DEF CON around a guy who bought a camera for his kitten and is about as secure as a paper bag. So again, it's not just necessarily the device you're working off, it's the environment it's in, and it's what's listening to you when you're doing your work calls. So yeah, it is a minefield for sure. I'm just looking right at a baby monitor right now, actually from where I'm sat. It's not turned on, I think. It's not turned on.
It is for your child, I hope.
No, I'm at Ben's house, so it's actually for Ben.
Oh, well, there you go. If anybody needs monitoring, Ben does.
Agreed.
Okay, Pete, so can I call to you, Pete, and how deep into your supply chain and do you think about security? I mean, do you talk about the people that you actually deal with, or is it the people that they deal with, or the people that they deal with? How deep do you go into your network?
So as a business, if you look at our supply chain, it's quite shallow and quite wide because we've got quite a wide range of products, and we tend to work directly with the major vendors. We do use distribution, like distributors in the UK, resellers and stuff, but essentially we tend to deal directly with vendors. So from a security perspective, the one thing that certainly we've seen in the last 2 or 3 months a big uptake on is sort of host-based intrusion protection systems, distributed security systems, log monitoring, and security as a service solutions. There are a couple of vendors that we use that have got sort of different offerings. One of those being Armour, and the other being Alert Logic, who are sort of major players. So SIEM is something that I think when I first heard that term, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I had to Google it to find out what it was. Is something that gets mentioned on all of the meetings that I have with customers now. Before this, not so much. If I'm honest, it wasn't really a concern for them. But now people are looking at getting PCI compliance if they do with the states. They need to be HIPAA compliant or Sarbanes-Oxley. I think that there are two threads running through this. There are firms that simply want to put something in there so they can get a tick in a box for an accreditation for ISO 27000 or whatever that may be. And there are other companies who actually want a proper SIEM installing. They want a managed service wraparound where people will react rather than just having a pane of glass they can look at and it'll be half read most of the time and everybody ignores, which is typically what happens when companies put a large amount of capex into putting SIEM in and then they don't back that up with the people who are actually looking at it and monitoring it. That's been a problem in our industry for the past 15 to 20 years at least. So that's how I've seen things change, and those are the sort of different products that I'm seeing coming through the supply chain now that we really didn't see more than 9 months ago. That's what I'm seeing.
Okay, excellent. Thanks. So we're up against it for time because we're up against actually a real astronaut, but there you go. So one last question, which I'm going to ask for each of you. I'm going to start with Martin. Are we going to go back to the way that we worked before the pandemic?
No. Do you want me to expand on that?
If you wish.
I think that just my private view, I have nothing to base it on, but I just think that this has forced, when I say us, the general public, business community and home users to embrace the technology and to use it. And there are people using it that have never used it before, from people in their 80s that think they have like Zoom wine tasting sessions to everything. And I just think that for that reason, I think people are using it. Also as well, I'd like to see public sector using it more, because where we use it well, not only do we do our work more efficiently, but we actually save money with less time on the road, less expenses, all the rest of it. So I think there will be positives that come out of this, and the positives will be we will all use this technology more for the right reasons. Excellent,
thanks. Sam, same question to you. Are we going back?
No, I don't think we can. I don't think we should. I mean, I hate I'm saying this out loud. I miss traveling at this point now. This is the longest I've been in my house, although I'm not in it now, for a very long time. And I think for the most part, this works fine. I do get a bit scared when I see people kind of from the waist down. I'm like, oh, legs! See those on the screen. But I think we're going to find a balance, and I think this is a good thing. If something good can come of COVID, I think this will open up opportunity for people being able to work from home. I think we'll see people coming back into the security industry, maybe that haven't been able to because they've got families or some other life commitments. So no is the big answer, and good.
Excellent. So remember, you heard it here first. Legs are going to make a comeback, so that's great. And Pete, same question for you. Are we going to go back to the way we were?
Yeah, everything will go back to exactly how it was before. Of course,
radical.
Of course it will, and neither should it. I think alluding, following on some of the stuff that Ben mentioned there, not so much in a working environment. Even we've got Britain's Got Talent coming on back on this weekend, and the crowd for Britain's Got Talent are all coming in virtually. It's the way that our society is affected. The guys that I work with are having a virtual gin tasting session next week. Good friend of mine has had a kidney transplant a couple of years ago, so he's been shielding. He can't have any visitors to the house, and it's been I've been able to Zoom call him on a Saturday and sit down and have a beer and a chat with him. These are things that we would never have considered doing. And I think society is a better place for the horrible things that have happened to us over the last 9 months. And neither should we go back to the way things are.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much. I personally want to go back to some sort of hybrid economy where you go where you can add the most value. But there you go. So, look, thank you very much, Martin, Sam, Pete. My name is Phil Jackman, and don't forget Cyberfest. There's another 9 events throughout September, all free. Look forward to them. See you later. Thanks so much now.
Also.